Anthony Joshua is a fighter who has a lot of success fighting from long distance. One of the best tools in his arsenal is his probing lead hand he constantly uses to control the distance, control his opponent's options, set up his own offense, and defensively pick off his opponent's punches, among countless other uses for this hand. Joshua is used to having a height advantage over his opponents, and is very good at playing to his strengths. This may be why many expected him to beat Oleksandr Usyk, and before I break down some of the sequences in the fight, let's first focus on Joshua's lead hand use to defensively pick off his opponent's punches. In this example here, we see Joshua use his lead hand to control the distance between him and Ruiz, and when Ruiz steps too close, you notice Joshua just pops him with the jab. However, when Ruiz tries to get offense going with his own lead hand, Joshua notices this and picks at Ruiz's lead hand, essentially stopping Ruiz's jab before it happens. Joshua doesn't need to see the punch coming. He likes to take a proactive defense and pick at his opponent's lead hand with his own lead hand. Ruiz shows the lead hand again, and immediately Joshua picks at the lead hand to take away the jab. And this is what Joshua's defense revolves around. In this example against Vladimir Klitschko, we see Klitschko gestures his hand like he's looking for a jab, and immediately Joshua picks at that lead hand with his own lead hand to pick off the jab before it happens. And as you see, he continuously picks at that lead hand of Vladimir Klitschko, and Klitschko resets, giving up on the jab. And this brings me to the fight with Oleksandr Usyk. And the thing is, many people favor Joshua not only because of his size, but because of his style of fighting long and doing it extremely well. However, despite this, Usyk showed a brilliant game plan to counter Joshua's probing lead hand when he tries to pick off shots preemptively. So we see Usyk shows his lead hand, and Joshua immediately goes to pick it with his lead hand. Usyk notices this and shows his lead hand again to get Joshua to try to pick at it again. And we see, as expected, Joshua extends his lead hand to try to pick off Usyk's jab, and Usyk steps in with a counter left hand to completely counter Joshua's tendency. Here we're going to see the same thing. Usyk feints the lead hand, and Joshua immediately extends his lead hand in response to control that lead hand of Usyk. And Joshua is thinking, you're not going to control me with your feints, so I'm going to control your hand. However, this is a trap. Usyk anticipates this reaction and slips in with a jab that pops Joshua. So let's take a look at what just happened there. Usyk feints the lead hand, and Joshua slips to the outside of what would have been a jab. Realizing he was just controlled, Joshua, as he always does, immediately tries to take control back with his extended lead hand. So once again, Usyk shows the lead hand, but feints harder with it to give him a better chance of making Joshua bite on the feint again. And once again, Joshua reaches out to try to control Usyk, and Usyk steps in with a counter left hand to nail Joshua, trying to control him again. What's even more impressive about this is that Usyk flashes his jab, leaving it in Joshua's face just long enough for Joshua to react to it with his extended lead arm defense. As soon as Joshua reaches to pick off Usyk's lead hand, Usyk retracts his lead hand. And what this does is it makes Joshua reach further, because when you go to check your opponent's hand, you reach until you make contact with said hand. Usyk retracting his hand at the perfect time made Joshua reach that much further to try to check it, which gave Usyk crucial milliseconds to step in with his counter left hand.
Tonight, of course, it's a straight left right down the pipe again.
He's killing AJ with the fake game, guys.
In yet another example, Usyk shows the lead hand, and that prompts AJ to show his lead hand. So Usyk's going to do the same thing again. He's going to once again show his lead hand to try to get Joshua to extend again so that he could counter him. And I know this is starting to get repetitive. Usyk counters the lead hand with a straight left. Oh, wait a second. After getting countered multiple times, Joshua catches onto Usyk's strategy and is able to slip and counter Usyk's counter left. So Joshua finally makes the adjustment, and now a strategical chess match will play out as both guys will need to adjust to each other. So just to hammer the idea home, Usyk has essentially been controlling Joshua by leading interactions, in this case showing the lead hand to draw out the expected reaction of Joshua, extending his lead hand, which Usyk counters. And this is the most important lesson to take away from these examples. By being the proactive fighter and leading interactions, you control how your opponent reacts, and thus you control the fight. Next, I want to talk about a very peculiar way Usyk utilized his jab on Anthony Joshua, and it was by setting it up from an outside angle. It's common knowledge in a Southpaw vs Orthodox match that stepping the lead foot to the outside of your opponent's lead foot creates a dominant position where you could attack from an outside angle. Usyk would use this to trick Joshua and instead come up the middle with his jab while moving in the opposite direction. Now let's take a look at this. So we're going to see Usyk tap the jab and start moving over to that outside angle, so it really looks like he's going to attack from there. As you see, he steps in harder there, and you see his trying to set up an attack from the outside angle, but you see Joshua steps back at that same angle in order to shut it down and defend it nicely, so Usyk has to abandon the attack. So Joshua steps back, completely neutralizing Usyk's attack. And Joshua has sniffed out what Usyk is trying to do. So here you see Usyk steps to the outside again. However, instead of bringing his head with him as he moves outside Joshua's lead foot, he simultaneously slips to the inside and jabs up the middle. As you can see, Anthony Joshua timed Usyk's step in with his own jab and even aimed it where Usyk's head would be. So Joshua did the right thing and tried to catch Usyk coming in. However, Usyk, being one step ahead of Joshua, unconventionally changes his head slot back to the middle, where Joshua would least expect it. Usyk essentially moved his feet in one direction and his head in the other. Brilliantly unpredictable.
Hot shot in there, Usyk. Good jab.
So once again, we're going to see Usyk start to move over to that outside angle to try to establish a dominant position. You see he steps in, and once again Usyk establishes the dominant outside angle, but slips his head in the opposite direction to avoid Joshua's counter. You can see Joshua adjusted slightly and kept his jab closer to the center line, which allows him to graze Usyk, but Usyk still gets on the inside of the counter and once again lands cleanly. The fascinating thing about this technique is that it is a prime example of knowing the fundamentals and when to break them. It's common knowledge to avoid keeping your head on the center line where it's free to be hit. However, in a top level chess match, Usyk brings his head to the center line, ironically, to avoid being hit. By moving to his right, Usyk knows a smart boxer like Anthony Joshua will see where he's moving and catch him with a counter. Moving to Joshua's left also baits out the logical counter, which is the jab on that same side. This way Usyk lowers the chance Joshua throws the straight right hand instead, and is able to relatively safely bring his head to the center. This is unlike anything you see from anyone in boxing, and it's seeing these weird tactical game plans unfold that makes me jizz my pants. And that's going to do it for this one. As always, thank you all for watching, and special thanks to my GOAT tier patrons, Grant Gabriel and Jason Maheenan. You guys keep the channel going. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.